time to go to the movies. Every Thursday afternoon around this time sees James Luxford from the Metro and Radio Times magazine here to give us his take on the movie picks of the week. And eagle-eared people will be out there wanting to know what you made of Toy Story 4. James.
Yeah, it's the latest adventure for Woody and Buzz, which sees them out to rescue their new friend called Forky.
Everyone, Bonnie made a friend in class.
Oh, she's already making friends.
No, she literally made a new friend. I want you to meet Forky.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
He's a spork.
Yes, yeah, I know.
A spork? Like a half spoon, half fork?
Yeah,
Right,
it's the introduction of, like, you know, when very small children sort of make things out of little plastic bits. But it's very funny. I really enjoyed this. I'm in a strange place with it because I think Toy Story 3 was a real masterpiece, I think, not just as an animated film or not just as, you know, a family film. I think just as a work of cinema, it was a real accomplishment. I don't know if it's as good as that.
Right.
That's not to say it's not a brilliant film.
Yeah.
It's probably better than most of the things you'll see this summer.
The level reached by Toy Story 3, and for many, you know, who watched all the three, you kind of thought that really did draw the line under it, and emotionally you kind of invested in that being the end. I was a bit disappointed, I'll be honest, when I heard they were going to make a fourth. I thought,
Exactly.
you're going to spoil it now, aren't you?
Yeah, and I think you see this with sort of something like Monsters University from a few years ago and Finding Dory. They're very good films, but it just came from that special period from about, the early 2000s to around 2010 when Pixar was just making magic. And as I say, it's a very strange feeling to be saying it's very good, but it's not genius. I think if you are just looking for a great extension and more time to spend with those characters, you'll love it.
Excellent. Okay, let's move on to Brightburn. Tell us a bit about this.
Yeah, a horror film which is a dark look at the superhero genre. A childless couple find a child in their farm whom they adopt, but around his 12th birthday, he begins to exhibit disturbing powers.
I know it's been difficult for you lately that you feel different from other kids. You are different.
Okay, all right. I'll be honest, don't know too much about this. So who's in it? Do we know?
Yeah, Elizabeth Banks, who may remember some things like Pitch Perfect and other films. Imagine sort of the beginning of Superman. We all know the Superman legend found on the farm, adopted by Ma and Pa Kent. But instead of becoming Superman, he becomes this kind of demon.
Okay.
So it's a reverse twist on that. It doesn't quite go as live up to the clever premise, but it becomes sort of a very fairly standard horror film. But I think very well done. Very stripped down, free of a lot of the kind of computer effect overflow that you get with a lot of these movies. Scary enough, and I think, a really good film.
Because I know you don't really do horror, like me. You don't really do horror. So what was this like for you to actually watch? Was it something you put yourself through in the name of your profession?
It is. I mean, it's not my genre, but I always say into the screenings, when I go into the screenings to my colleagues, I'm going to go to the back now. Okay. And I don't want you to see me jumping and hiding behind my fingers. But I got
through it. Did you with this?
I did a couple of times, but it uses it quite sparingly, like I think good horror films should. Keeps the scares for sort of intermittent periods rather than just a scattergun approach.
Okay, let's have a home entertainment pick from you for the weekend.
The kid who would be king, Joe Cornish from Adam and Joe fame, directs a fun contemporary take on the King Arthur legend about a young boy who stumbles upon the mythical sword Excalibur.
You have to see what I found. There's something written on the guard. Put it into Google Translate.
It means Sword of Arthur.
What if it's the sword in the stone?
I did see these advertised a couple of months ago, and it didn't really sort of hit with me.
It didn't find its audience. There's been a few films like Booksmart from a couple of weeks ago that just haven't found their audience because they're quite small, they're very clever, and they're very good films, but they're not a superhero film, they're not a sequel. So in this sort of summer period, people being drawn with the big advertising campaigns. Really fun, though. Reminded me of 1980s sort of family films like The Goonies and something Steven Spielberg might have made, which is actually Joe Cornish, who directed the film, is written a few of Steven Spielberg's films. We wrote the Tintin movie from a few years ago, and so he seems to have absorbed a bit of that magic.
Okay, good stuff. James, appreciate it. It was good seeing you. Thanks very much indeed. James Luxford from the Radio Times and Metro newspaper with his movie picks for you this week on BBC Coventry and Warwickshire.
BBC Coventry and Warwickshire Travel.